Today, we're going to do a 3-round mock draft with trades. We're going to get a little crazy with it. This is not necessarily what I think is going to happen, but I do think it is a possibility, right? If I was the GM of some of these teams, maybe these are some of the moves that I would personally make. It's probably for the better that I'm not, but there's no 100% way to accurately predict what's going to unfold on draft night, how teams feel about certain players. We can only do our best to guess. Now, I say all of that, and I feel like the number one overall pick is incredibly obvious. I think we all know how the Titans feel about Cam Ward. This is a guy who is going to be a franchise quarterback, and not just a franchise quarterback, but probably a great franchise quarterback. There's always the possibility he'll be a bust, but if the Titans surround him with playmakers, if they give him the right coaching, if they put him in the correct system, the sky is the limit for a player like this. Will they actually do that? That's really the only question mark surrounding the number one overall pick at the moment. The draft really starts with pick number 2. The Browns could go a couple different directions here. I think a lot of experts have them selecting Abdul Carter. It's the Vegas betting favorite at the moment. I think a lot of things that the front office has indicated that they are going to take Abdul Carter, pair him up with Myles Garrett, and just wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks. I think a lot of fans would disagree with that, though, and not just Browns fans, but football fans in general. They feel like they should take a quarterback, Shedeur Sanders in particular, and how can you really blame them? The only quarterback on the roster at the moment is really Kenny Pickett, who at best is a bridge quarterback in my opinion. You have Deshaun Watson on one of the worst NFL contracts in history. You're in salary cap hell because of it. He's most likely played his last game in a Browns uniform. What better way to fight through salary cap hell than to compete with a quarterback on a rookie contract? I'm going to have them select a quarterback. I'm just not going to have them take one with the second overall pick. And that's because I don't think the Browns, or the Giants for that matter, love Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, that's completely speculative. There's no way to actually know that. I just don't think there's a lot to love about Shedeur Sanders in general. There might be a lot to like, but you have to love the guy to take him with the second or third overall pick in the draft, especially over two blue chip prospects who are head and shoulders above every other prospect in this class, in my opinion, whether it's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I'm going to have the Browns take an unorthodox route here and select Travis Hunter. Again, kind of an unpopular opinion. I do have a plan for the Browns, though, and I think this plan could work for the Giants as well. If the Browns were to select Abdul Carter and the Giants selected Hunter, I would like to see them execute this plan as well. We'll talk more about it in just a few minutes. But I think Travis Hunter has top 5 wide receiver in the NFL upside. I think he could be absolutely great at that position. I think he can moonlight at corner as well in obvious passing downs. You play him opposite Denzel Ward, and you got a lockdown cornerback duo there. You could even potentially move on from Denzel Ward if you feel like you have to as well because of Travis Hunter. But again, I do have a plan with the Browns that could work for the Giants as well. In this case, the Giants are going to select Abdul Carter. I wouldn't be shocked to see them select Mason Graham here. I think Mason Graham is a better fit. I just think Abdul Carter, his potential is just too high not to take in this case. Mason Graham could be great as well. I think he's just a higher floor player. You get more upside with Abdul Carter. And you can rotate him in with Thibodeaux and Brian Burns. You could stand one of those guys up at defensive tackle on obvious passing downs as well, and just have them go get the quarterback. So not a terrible fit for the Giants here whatsoever. That leaves the Patriots in kind of an awkward position here at pick number 4. I wouldn't be shocked to see them take Will Campbell. Comments came out today from Vrabel saying that he thinks Will Campbell can be a tackle. And if you feel very strongly about that, why not take Will Campbell? I get there's discourse about his arm length. I don't really read that much into it. I'm also not a draft or player expert by any means, but you know, you're looking for guys who fit the culture you're trying to build in New England, a culture we didn't have last year as a Patriots fan with Mayo, a huge reason why they moved on from him, in my opinion. Will Campbell, he's going to be a great player. There's no doubt about it. He's probably going to be a team captain at some point as well, probably for a long time if he stays healthy. The question is it going to be a tackle or is it going to be a guard? If there's even a slight question about that, I think you just trade down in the spot. You could even trade down and get him later as well. I'm actually going to have the Patriots trade back here with the San Francisco 49ers. So let's go ahead and set that up. Okay, so I'm going to have the Niners give up pick 11 and 43 and a 4th round next year for the Patriots, 4th overall pick. Don't judge the value too harshly. Obviously, it's not going to be exact. I did use the NFL draft capital trade chart to try to make it semi-realistic. So hopefully it's not too crazy. But the reason I have the Niners moving up here is because they're going to jump the Jags, who are the obvious landing spot for Mason Graham, to grab Mason Graham. And I think the reason the Niners are going to do this is because they need help in the trenches. They need an offensive lineman, and I think they could potentially get one later in the draft, a decent one, one who could potentially start right out of the gate. But you know what you're getting with Mason Graham. Again, a high floor player. But the reason why I have the Niners jumping up to pick number 4 is because there's a couple teams here that could potentially take a defensive lineman. I think, again, Mason Graham, if he fell to the Jags, they would most likely take him. But the Raiders could take one. The Jets could take one. I could see the Panthers taking one possibly. The Saints, maybe. They did take Brzee last year. The Bears, absolutely. If Walter Nolan got to the Bears, yes, I think they take him. Walter Nolan is not talked about enough. I do not think he is very far behind Mason Graham, and those two guys are the best defensive tackles in the draft by far. Those two are a class above everybody else, and yes, there are a lot of good interior defensive linemen, so the Niners don't necessarily have to give up anything to move up, but if you want a blue-chip defensive tackle, I think you might have to do it. I'm going to have the Jags here take Walter Nolan. I think he could go top 5. I don't think it's that crazy. He is that good. He has that much potential. It wouldn't shock me to see the Jags take McMillan in the spot, but I think Walter Nolan, again, the sky's the limit for this guy. He is an absolute monster. At pick number 6, a couple different options here for the Raiders. I know the very popular pick at the moment is Ashton Jeanty. It makes sense. You have a very good offensive line trending up at the moment. An older quarterback that you might want to take some pressure off of in Geno Smith. You could give him another target in McMillan just because that wide receiver core is not great. I think they're going to run the offense through Jacoby Myers, though. They're going to run it through Brock Bowers, obviously. You can get a wide receiver later. You can get a running back later as well. Membu is not a bad option here. I think a lot of Raiders fans are, mocking that. I think you let Glaze play the right tackle position, though. I don't think he's bad there. I think he's got some potential. I take Will Campbell and I plug him in at right guard. Will Campbell, again, is a guy who a lot of people are saying is going to be better at guard. Why not lock up that offensive line, form a really good front 5 there, and just protect Geno Smith for a couple years, get the most out of him, and then draft a quarterback later this year or a quarterback next year and protect him for the future as well. Sneaky pick here, but I like Will Campbell to the Raiders. That leaves Membu for the Jets here. It makes the most sense. Again, another team with one hole in their offensive line. Moses goes to the Patriots. They need a right tackle. Membu, only 20 years old. A ton of potential there. Still needs quite a bit of time to develop, in my opinion. But you can give him that time with the Jets, who, again, have 4 other offensive linemen, 4 starters that are actually pretty damn good. And I certainly think quarterback is in play for both the Jets and the Raiders. Shedeur Sanders could be drafted by both of those teams. I think in this case, though, both teams just want to build in the trenches, just dominate up front. I think that's really the direction the league is trending in at the moment. It's also kind of why I think running backs are worth taking earlier in the draft. We're kind of in this cycle where teams get light in the box. They move safeties to linebacker. They're trying to keep up with all these super fast wide receivers that run 4.3s and 4.4s. Teams are airing the ball out. Now I feel like there's kind of a momentum shift in the league at the moment. Like we're kind of swaying back towards teams getting heavy and running the ball, especially to counter, 2 high safeties, which is kind of taking over the league at the moment. So I think drafting running backs early, especially with a running back class this talented, I don't hate it. I actually love it. And I think the same about offensive linemen, whether it's guards or tackles, especially athletic ones that can get upfield and just dominate in the trenches. So I love I love Membu to the Jets here. I love Campbell to the Raiders. The Panthers here could take McMillan, give Bryce Young another target. They certainly need one, but they have the worst defense in the league. I just feel like you have to go defense here. I'm going to have them take Shamar Stewart. This guy's a monster. Didn't really produce a lot in college in terms of stats and actual sack numbers. But I mentioned this in my previous mock draft. Neither did Danielle Hunter. Tested freakishly well at the combine. He's one of the highest paid edges in the league now. One of the best on top of it. Shamar Stewart. I'm not dissuaded at all by his sack numbers. I'm taking him with the number 8 overall pick to the Panthers. They could go Jalen Walker as well. Jalen Walker, a little undersized in my opinion, though. Get a guy who has all the tools to be an amazing edge rusher and kind of coach him up in the right direction. He will eventually produce, in my opinion. And that leaves the Saints at pick number 9, a team that they need to rebuild. They're not great. They got some players, but in general, man, I think they're going to struggle this year. I think they're going to struggle for a few years. You could take Shedeur Sanders here as well, but I'm actually gonna have them trade out of this position here. I'm gonna have them trade with the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are gonna jump back into the first round, into the top 10, and select Shedeur Sanders. Okay, so we're gonna have the Browns give up pick number 33, 67, and a first round pick next year for pick number 9 from the Saints. And then again, I'm gonna have the Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders here. Put butts in seats, sell jerseys, reinvigorate that offense. You get a quarterback of the future here. You get to pair him with his favorite target in college, Travis Hunter. They already have chemistry. This makes a lot of sense. Why not try to pair the two? Obviously, is this likely? Not necessarily, because again, a couple teams between now and then could possibly take Sanders. Another team like the Steelers could potentially trade up and get him as well. You could potentially try to make this move later in the draft as well. Obviously, that's a bit risky, but we're going to have the Browns jump up to pick number 9. Yes, they sacrifice a little bit of their future, but again, they need to compete with players that they don't have to pay a lot. Right, and you can get that immediately from Sanders, who I think is pretty damn near pro ready. He might not have the same ceiling that Cam Ward has, but he can go out there and spread the ball around. He's accurate. He doesn't produce a lot of turnover-worthy plays. And again, you pair him with Travis Hunter, who is a generational athlete. So I love this move here for the Browns. And again, if it fell the other way where the Giants get Travis Hunter, I'd like to see the Giants trade up and get Shedeur Sanders as well. But that leaves Ashton Denty for the Bears at pick number 10. I kind of just talked about it. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league now. They really killed it in free agency. Caleb Williams was under an immense amount of pressure last season. Take more of it off him with Denty. Another generational prospect here. Great running back. The only real issue is ball security, but this guy is absolutely incredible. Chicago is a place where he will almost certainly succeed, barring any type of injury. And that leaves the Patriots at pick number 11. McMillan certainly in play here. Get a future target, a target of the future for Drake May. You jump the Cowboys, who I think are likely to take him if he gets there, but you need to protect Drake May. He's the future of your team. I think that's incredibly obvious. You get Josh Emmons, who I personally have more confidence in playing tackle than I do in Will Campbell. And you pick up some draft capital along the way as well. So I love Josh Simmons at pick number 11 here for the Cowboys. I just mentioned it. McMillan at wide receiver here. Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and McMillan and a running back later in this draft. You have a super high-powered offense. You have an MVP candidate in Dak Prescott. I think, again, the Cowboys are going to compete for the NFC title, for a division title. And then you have the Dolphins at pick number 13. Barron makes a lot of sense here. A guy who can do a lot of different things in the secondary. He can play safety. You lose Holland. He can play slot corner, can play outside corner. Just a great athlete. Really great potential as well. Makes a lot of sense for a Dolphins team that is really lacking in the secondary right now. And then at pick number 14, Tyler Warren here. I actually like Loveland more than Warren, but I think Warren would go off the board here first to the Colts. Makes a lot of sense. Anthony Richardson, I know a lot of people don't like him. They're pretty low on him. I like him to bounce back this year, especially with a reliable pass catcher in Tyler Warren. I know they have good receivers, a pretty good offensive line. Jonathan Taylor, one of the better running backs in the league, but I think Warren is going to do wonders for Anthony Richardson. And at pick 15, the Falcons are on the board. A couple guys in play here. Jihad Campbell makes sense. Mike Green was super productive in college. Jalen Walker here as well. I'm going to have them take Michael Williams, a physical freak. A lot of potential there as well. A great project for the Falcons, who have a pretty pathetic pass rush. I think Michael Williams could do a lot for them, especially in the future. That leaves the Cardinals here at pick 16. Will Johnson, obviously, big question marks surrounding his health, but when healthy, he's one of the best players undeniably in the draft. They need help at corner. A couple really good interior defensive linemen already off the board. You could certainly go Kenneth Grant here. Would not be surprised to see that. But Will Johnson falling to pick number 16 is a dream come true for the Arizona Cardinals. That leaves the Bengals with a lot of different options here at pick 17. I think this is another dream scenario for Bengals fans as well. You get Jihad Campbell here, who can rush the passer, play linebacker. Again, Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., a couple question marks surrounding his character. He had some issues with his coachability in college. Super talented, though, maybe slightly undersized. I'm going to have them take Jalen Walker here, a little bit undersized as well, but a do-it-all guy who can play linebacker, can get after the quarterback as well. I could see Jalen Walker going as high as pick number 8 to the Panthers, but a great player out of Georgia there with, again, another incredibly high ceiling. I really shouldn't even have to say that. I mean, it's the first round. You're not going to draft guys who don't have a high ceiling, really. But at pick number 18, the interior offensive line for the Seahawks needs a ton of work. You get it here with Kelvin Banks, a guy who can play tackle long-term. He can move inside immediately and play a guard, which, again, I think is a desperate need for the Seahawks at the moment. You paid Sam Darnold. You got him on a pretty good contract, to be honest. You still gave him a decent amount of money, though. You want to compete right away. Kelvin Banks is going to help protect him. And that means Jihad Campbell falls right into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' lap. A great fit for them. They need a guy who can get after the quarterback, somebody who can fill in Levante David's shoes when he ultimately retires, probably next season, if I had to guess. He's up there in age, even though he is coming back next season. Campbell does it all. Again, a guy who does everything. He's a great tool for that defense. No way he gets past pick number 19. Could go even earlier as well. Would not be surprised to see that. And at pick number 20, I know the popular pick here is Amarian Hampton, a running back prospect who is more than worthy of a first-round pick. You can get a running back a little bit later, though. I think there are running backs that are a better fit for Sean Payton's system as well. Get Matthew Golden here. You need more wide receiver help for Bo Nix, who had a tremendous rookie season. A team, again, that is poised. I said this in my last mock draft. A team that is poised to make a deep run that could easily win the AFC West, in my opinion. Matthew Golden is arguably the best wide receiver in this class. Blazing fast, gets ton of separation, good at contested catches. I would not be surprised to see him be the best wide receiver out of this class, outside of maybe Travis Hunter. That's hard to argue. I see Travis Hunter more of a dual guy anyway. So Matthew Golden is great, though. I could see him being better than McMillan, Burden, Igbuka. There are great wide receivers in this class as well. And that leaves Hampton for the Steelers. I know a lot of people think the Steelers are going to take Jackson Dart. I blanked for a second there. Jackson Dart here. I think the Steelers are going to land Aaron Rodgers. I would almost consider that a lock at this point. And I think if they sign Aaron Rodgers, they're not going to draft his replacement with one of their few picks that they have in this draft, especially their first round pick. They're going to take somebody that can help Aaron Rodgers so that they can compete right away. They got Metcalf, they got Pickens. Get Hampton here, fill in for Najee Harris. Not only fill in, he's going to be better than Najee. There's no question in my mind. Amari Hampton is a workhorse. He's a bell cow running back. You get him at pick 21. At pick number 22, the Chargers here with Golden off the board. I think they take Loveland here. They could certainly go defensive line. Mike Green wouldn't be surprising. Replace Joey Bosa, obviously, but Loveland, coached by Harbaugh. They don't really have a tight end. I believe tight end one right now is Conklin. Give Herbert more help. He finally got some last season with McConkey, who produced unreal numbers. Get another great receiving tight end in Colston Loveland. Well, not another one, but another great receiving target in Colston Loveland. At pick number 23, I'm going to have the Packers select Mike Green. Again, I'm not on board with the Packers selecting a wide receiver. Egbuka is great. Burden is solid. I mean, Burden considered great by some people. Me personally, I would take Egbuka over him. It really depends on what team, but I think they need edge rusher more. I think it's a more pressing need. Mike Green falling to pick 23. I could see him going in the teens as well. So I think that's a great pick for them. At pick number 24, this one's kind of a challenging pick here. I could see the Vikings going with a guard, Donovan Jackson or Gray Zabel. I'm going to have them take Malachi Starks, though, and just be the replacement for Harrison Smith, who, again, is coming back next season, but he's up there in age as well. Starks can do a lot of different things. He can play slot, in the box, free safety, another tool in the defense, well, for the defense in the secondary. Pick number 25. This one's pretty straightforward in my opinion. You have to go, well, actually, I may have just changed my mind saying it out loud. You obviously want to protect Stroud. That was this team's weakness last season. I think the Texans are another team that are poised to make a very deep run. Stroud kind of sophomore slumped. I thought he played tremendously well against the Chiefs. Given the circumstances, he was under immense pressure the entire game. They kind of scrapped the entire offensive line. They got some placeholders in there, some bridge players. I think they take a lot of offensive linemen here. But if the board fell like this, I think you take Egbuka. You know, Ohio State guy, pair him with Stroud. Tank Dell's not going to play this season, most likely. I'm pretty sure I'm almost positive he won't play at all this season. Egbuka, another reliable target here. Very good receiver. Obviously, that Ohio State connection as well. If Simmons was still on the board here, I'd imagine they still take him. Connerly's in play. Zabel's in play. You have another guard here, another great guard in Tyler Booker. I could see Donovan Jackson going here as well. A lot of different options, but I think, again, if the board fell this way, they would go Egbuka. So at pick number 26, that leaves the Rams. It says they need a tackle. Havenstein's up there in age. I think the Rams are a Super Bowl contending team as well. They might be my personal Super Bowl favorite at the moment. I don't think they're looking to draft a guy for the future in the first round. They want to draft a guy who can make an instant impact. I think that's going to be Trey Amos. They run a lot of zone. Trey Amos fits their scheme defensively the most, I think. That's a solid pick at number 26. I think they could potentially trade back a little bit as well. But again, they're trying to win now. So take Amos at pick 26. At pick 27, Zabel is obvious for me here. You know, Pierce in consideration there, but protect Lamar Jackson. He is your entire team pretty much. So why not take Zabel, who's going to be a great guard in the NFL? I feel like he can play all positions as well on the offensive line. So if somebody gets hurt, he can easily slot in there as well. No issues whatsoever. Same thing with the Lions, a team that doesn't really have a lot of holes. I could see them taking a guard here. They do need a little bit more pass rush, though. James Pierce here. Kenneth Grant's in play, certainly. Again, Donovan Jackson, not surprised at all if he goes to the Lions at pick number 28. I'm going to have them take James Pierce, though. Defense needs a little bit of work. They got lit up by the Commanders pretty damn bad. So, yeah, get James Pierce. Get after opposing quarterbacks. You know your offense can put up points. You can take a guard maybe a little bit later. And that leaves the Commanders here at pick 29. Luther Burden. I had him going here in my first mock draft. I've kind of changed my mind here. You could go guard as well. Again, Donovan Jackson, Booker. You could go Donovan Iziriaku. Forgive the pronunciation. It's not my strong suit whatsoever. Amana Wari here would be a really solid pick at safety as well. I'm going to have them take Booker. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. You want to protect your quarterback. Jaden Daniels is an awesome player, man. Just absolutely unbelievable. Super young. Protect him. Keep him healthy. Tyler Booker, day one starting guard who can make a very positive impact early on. At pick number 30, that leaves the Bills. I'm going to have the Bills take Amana Wari here. Kenneth Grant, I mean, it's hard to pass up on Kenneth Grant here if you're the Bills. It's hard to pass up on Luther Burden, too. I mean, really spoiled for choice if you're the Bills. I'm going to have them take Amana Wari, though. Actually, no, am I? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to have them take Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant makes a lot of sense here. They do need interior defensive line help. It's close, though. A lot of different options there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Luther Burden go off the board. That leaves the Chiefs here at pick number 31. And I'm going to have the Chiefs select Donovan Jackson. You know, I think they do need to reload on the defensive line. This class is super deep with edge rushers, with interior defensive linemen, so they can get guys who can rotate in later. You know, again, I feel like the Eagles kind of showed that blueprint, that Super Bowl winning blueprint. Get a ton of guys who can get after the quarterback and just rotate them. But also, the Chiefs kind of exposed their weakness. Their offensive line was not great. You want to protect one of the best quarterbacks already of all time in Patrick Mahomes. Donovan Jackson, instant impact starter at guard. Great athlete as well, can get upfield, get to the second level. The Chiefs are kind of a scrappy team on offense as well. They like to really fight tooth and nail, 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of offense. It's a lot different from Patrick Mahomes early in his career when they were just airing the ball out up top to Tyreek Hill every play. Travis Kelce finding huge holes in the defense. He's getting up there in age as well. So Donovan Jackson just build in the trenches. I think the Chiefs are going to draft a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of defensive linemen, and the Eagles are looking to replenish their defensive line as well after losing Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Donovan Donovan. Donovan is a great player. He can get after the quarterback, obviously. This is a pretty dream scenario for Eagles fans. This guy falling to pick number 32. They get a lot of talent, a great value here at the end of the first round. That leaves the Saints at pick number 33. I'm going to have them take a Luther Burden here. Definitely could be a first round selection for a couple different teams. A guy who can really do it all on offense. I mean, great after the catch, can play out of the slot, can play out wide as well. Again, wouldn't be surprised to see him go in the first round. But if he falls to the Saints, they take him. They need wide receiver help. Brandon Cooks right now, and then Shaheed, who's kind of their deep threat. Get a guy who can get the ball, make people miss. They'll take a quarterback later in the draft. At pick number 34, we're going to have the Giants here go with Jackson Dart. The Saints could go with Jackson Dart as well. I'm just going to have the Giants in this case take him. And then at pick number 35, we have the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to have them take a wide receiver to help out Cam Ward. Jaden Higgins is a beast out of Iowa State. This guy is going to be really good. Super tall, rangy, fast, too. Runs a 4.4, good hands. He's going to be a steal for somebody. And that leaves Nick Amanawari out of South Carolina at pick number 36. The Jags need safety help. He gives them that. Could easily be a first-round selection as well. And then at pick number 37, I could see the Raiders going corner here. Maxwell Harrison, a great zone corner. Derek Harmon makes sense here as well. A running back. We talked about this earlier. They built the offensive line. Trayvon Henderson would be solid here as well. I just think if Derek Harmon falls to them, I think they're going to take him. Again, this is really good value here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see any of the options I talked about. And that means the Patriots are up here at pick number 38. They got their tackle. They could look to potentially take a guard here. I don't think I want to overdo it with the offensive line in this case, though. I'm going to have them take Trey Harris here, 6'3", fast, good hands. Not that dissimilar from Jaden Higgins, in my opinion. Could go a little bit later. Maybe this is a slight reach, but I think Trey Harris is going to be an outstanding target, especially if you pair him with a quarterback that has the potential like Drake May has. Stephon Diggs, not a long-term solution. You got Demario Douglas in the slot, Hunter Henry, an above average tight end. I think this offensive line, or I think this offense in general, if you build up the offensive line and get Drake May a couple more reliable targets, especially young guys, that he can build chemistry with over the next couple of years, I think it's going to be a great, not a great offense. Great's a strong word, but I think it could be a great offense in just a couple years. At pick number 39, this one might be a little bit crazy, but Omar Norman Lott to the Bears. The Bears, again, not a team with a lot of holes. They got Genty at pick 10. We're going to have them take Norman Lott, kind of a specialized interior pass rusher. Not that dissimilar from somebody like Milton Williams, for example. Kind of really only plays on passing downs, third and fourth downs. But I think that's a really solid fit there for the Bears. They got some short-term solutions at defensive tackle, but Omar Norman Lott, I think, is a sneaky pick, maybe a slight reach. But if you feel strongly about him, you need to get at the quarterback like the Bears are going to want to, playing in arguably the toughest division of football. I think Omar Norman Lott is a pretty sneaky pick there, pick number 39. At pick number 40, the Saints have already selected Luther Burden. They could go a couple of different options in this case. I'm going to have them take a corner. Benjamin Morrison, even though the Saints don't run a ton of man coverage, I think Morrison can excel in both man and zone coverage. They need help at corner. And Morrison does have some health concerns, but if he's healthy, he is one of the best corners. If not the best corner, because, Will Johnson and Barron exist, but Morrison is certainly right there with those guys. At pick number 41, I'm going to have the Bears select Xavier Watts. Kevin Byard, getting up there in age. You get your replacement in Watts, who's a great ball hawking safety. Certainly not a bad pick whatsoever. Pick number 42, we have the Jets. The Jets have selected Membu to lock up their offensive line. I'm going to have them take Tyleik Williams, a great run-stopping defensive tackle. The Jets desperately need some help with that position, which brings up the Patriots again here at pick number 43. I think if Trayvon Henderson gets to this spot, you take him. I could see him going a little bit earlier to a team, like the Saints maybe. I'm not sure how desperately they need running back, especially if the board falls this way where they trade back. But the Raiders could take Henderson at pick number 37 as well. It kind of depends on what order you have these guys in. Judkins is great. Caleb Johnson is probably worthy of an early second-round pick as well. And I might go that direction with the Cowboys here at pick number 44. I'm actually going to have them take Caleb Johnson here. Judkins is a close second favorite of mine in this situation, but Caleb Johnson is going to be a monster again. The Cowboys are setting Dak up for success, coming back from injury. The Colts here at pick number 45, they had Warren in the first round. Scorton, definitely a decent option here. I'm going to have them take JTT, though. Criminally underrated, in my opinion. I'd rather have him over Scorton. Early middle second round here is great value for him. I could see him going earlier as well. Falcons at pick number 46. We're going to have them take a corner. And a couple different options here as well. Ursery, we have Hairston, Revel. Revel more of a man coverage guy. Hairston more of a zone guy. So we'll have the Falcons take Hairston. Outstanding athlete. Only 5'11", though, so a little bit on the shorter side for a corner. But, in zone coverage, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Cardinals here at pick number 47. They got Will Johnson in the first round. They're probably looking for a defensive tackle at this point. There's a couple decent options here. You got TJ Sanders, Darius Alexander at pick number 47. I'm not absolutely in love with that guy. I'm actually going to have the Cardinals maybe reach a little bit and take Alfred Collins from Texas here. This guy is great. Again, the Cardinals wanted Milton Williams, didn't get him. They Probably wanted Walter Nolan too, or Kenneth Grant. They could have gotten Kenneth Grant in this situation, but they decided to go with Will Johnson, who was just too hard to pass up at pick number 16. Kind of shore up that interior of the defensive line here with Alfred Collins at pick number 48. I'm going to have the Dolphins select Josh Conerly. A couple of these tackles falling a little bit further than I think people would expect, or maybe even I would expect. With the way this board has fallen once again. And then at pick 49, you want to protect Burrow. If you're the Bengals here, you got Jalen Walker. I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see them kind of load up more defensively as well. Obviously, that's kind of the weakness of their team. But if you can score more points than everybody you play, you're probably going to win more games. I'm going to go with Jonah Saiavina. Again, the pronunciation it's just so bad. I'm so sorry. Another guy who could be a really good guard here. Could definitely see him going in the second round. I'd be shocked if he gets out of the second round, to be honest here. At pick number 50 for the Seahawks. The Seahawks have quite a few picks in this draft here. Kelvin Banks, obviously. They get a sneaky pick. Well, not sneaky. I don't think this is sneaky whatsoever. Wait, where did he go? I just lost sight of him. Wide receiver here out of Iowa State, Jalen Noel. 5'11", a sharp route runner, reliable possession receiver. You obviously have Cooper Kupp. He's past his prime. Valdez-Scantling comes over from the Saints. He's more of a deep threat guy. JSN is going to be getting an unhealthy amount of targets. Get Noel, a guy for the future, obviously, going to help out Sam Darnold immediately. And a really great pick there for the Seahawks at pick number 50. The Broncos here at pick number 51. Again, they passed on Hampton. They're not going to pass on Judkins here, who I think could easily be one of the better running backs in this class. I could see him potentially being better than Henderson, his counterpart, or Caleb Johnson, maybe Hampton. Judkins obviously split time with Henderson. I think we're really going to see his full potential if he stays healthy, especially for a team like the Broncos, who do have a lot of talent around him, with Bo Nix, Golden in this case, Sutton. You bring over Engram from the Jags, one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line statistically last season as well. That brings up the Seahawks again at pick number 52. The Seahawks could definitely use some edge help, and with Scorton falling to pick 52, I feel like that's just too good of value to pass up on. The Bucs here at pick number 53. They definitely need some more defensive help here. You got some players on offense, obviously 2 great running backs, a pretty decent offensive line, an up-and-coming young tight end, 3 good receivers. Let's go corner here. A couple different options. Darian Porter, tall, great at the point of attack. Maybe a little bit more raw. You got Thomas here. And then you still have Revel on the board. Not a lot of teams are running man nowadays. Teams are mostly running zone. I'm going to have the Bucs here take Thomas. Again, more of a man coverage guy, but I think he'll be fine in either defensive scheme, whether it's man or zone coverage. The Packers here, this is a dream fit for Siobhan Revel, who could be a first-round pick as well. He falls to number 54. You take him. Still question marks surrounding Jair Alexander, but, if Jair's healthy, if he's the long-term solution, if he stays with the Packers long-term, Revel is a great guy to pair him with there. And then at pick 55, you got Loveland in the first round. You could go defensive line here. If you're the Chargers, you can maybe look to wide receiver. How much do you really want to load up on offense? You got a defensive head coach. There's some good players here on the defensive line. I'm going to have them take Jack Sawyer here at pick number 55. This brings up the Bills at pick number 56. They need corner help as well. They got Kenneth Grant with the 30th overall pick. I'm going to have them take Darian Porter. They could look potentially to a wide receiver as well, but Porter, kind of an alien in terms of his athleticism. 6'4" again, incredibly fast. Really high ceiling there if you're able to develop him well, and that Bills defense is definitely trending upwards, especially if they're able to nail this draft, and I think they get that with Porter and Kenneth Grant so far. You could look to receiver later to help out Josh Allen. Pick number 57 here for the Panthers. You got Shamar Stewart early in the first. You're picking again here late in the second. I think you potentially look to receiver in this case. Again, you could look to defense again. You could never have enough defensive players here if you're the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go Jack Besh here out of TCU. This guy is really solid. Again, Bryce Young kind of came onto the scene, kind of came into his own, maybe is a better way to describe it, towards the end of last season. You know, he potentially looked like he was going to be a bust for a while, but if you continue to build around him, I think he's just going to get better and better, obviously. I think that goes without saying. That brings the Texans here up once again at pick number 58, and you got to go offensive line at this point. Ursery falling to pick number 58 would be a dream for the Houston Texans. I don't know how realistic that is, but in this scenario, he does fall this far, which brings up the Ravens here at pick number 59. We already got a guard in Zabel. You need defensive line help. I love Braden Swinson out of LSU. A couple good edge rushers here, but I like Braden Swinson more than the rest of these guys at the moment. And then Lions kind of flip-flopped here with the Ravens, and the Ravens got a guard first. The Lions kind of need the same positions as well, edge rusher and guard. They got an edge rusher first, so now they're potentially looking for a guard here. I'm not really sure if there's a ton of options here. I think it's really Wyatt Millum or Tate Ratledge. Ratledge, I don't know why people aren't in love with this dude. I mean, he played on one of the best teams in the hardest conference. He measured incredibly well. He played well. I go Tate Ratledge here at pick number 60. A good athlete. Again, I think the Lions, they put a lot of stock into their offensive line. They want guys who can get to the next level and block upfield. And Ratledge can certainly do that. You can never have too much help on the offensive line there, especially if you're the Lions. So they take Ratledge at pick number 60. And that brings up the Commanders, who need edge help. Landon Jackson here out of Arkansas. The Bills are up once again at pick number 62. We already have them getting Kenneth Grant and Darian Porter. They might look to the offensive side of the ball in this case. The options at wide receiver are a little bit slim at this point. Jalen Royals, Iamanor is solid. Isaiah Bond here. Kyle Williams is a sneaky pick. Second round might be a little rich. I think I'm going to give them Jalen Royals, but I could see Williams going earlier than people expect. So Josh Allen gets another target here. The Chiefs, who already drafted Donovan Jackson to play guard, we mentioned it earlier, they need more defensive line help. Darius Alexander here, pretty decent value. I think he's maybe a little bit too highly rated on PFF at least. I could see him going later in the second. It just makes sense. Going to the Chiefs again, they want guys they can rotate in. They lose one of their interior defensive linemen to the Panthers. They need edge help as well. They can look to that position later in the draft. That brings up the Eagles here at pick number 64. I'd be a little surprised if he got here as well, but he does in this scenario. Mason Taylor is a problem out of LSU, and he is going to undoubtedly reach his full potential on a team like the Eagles, where he's going to be a forgotten about target with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley carrying the football. Mason Taylor is going to have a lot of success in that offense, in my opinion. Hopefully these other teams don't let him get to pick number 64, but if they do, again, I think everybody is going to regret it. That brings up the Giants here at pick number 65. Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart off the board here. They could look a couple of different directions at this point. Interior defensive line, I think, is certainly a need here. Tackle as well. We're going to have them take TJ Sanders out of South Carolina, kind of complete that defensive line. And again, because we had them take Carter, maybe you wouldn't take Sanders in this case, but Thibodeau, Burns, and Carter are going to be rotating in this scenario. They're going to be coming in and making their impact on passing downs, whereas Sanders is going to be more of an early down guy, play alongside Dexter Lawrence. That brings up the Kansas City Chiefs once again. They could look to defensive line or offensive line again in this case. a couple different choices. A Stewart, Kennard. You got Princely here. Won't even try to pronounce his last name, Jared Ivey. It's close. Again, you could go really either direction here. I'm going to have them take Princely, kind of round out that defensive line. And then you got the Saints once again at pick number 67. They have Burden and Morrison, another team that will probably look to the defensive line. Ivy, Kennard, Stewart. It really just depends on which of those guys you like the best. They do have Chase Young, who they just signed to a contract extension. You got Cameron Jordan, who's aging as well, so you definitely want somebody for the future in this case. I'm going to have them take Jared Ivey. We got the Raiders with pick number 68. They have Will Campbell and Derek Harmon. They're probably going to look to running back in this case. I think Dylan Sampson is the next best option there. Wouldn't be surprised again to see them select a running back even earlier, but Sampson is more than capable of being a starter in his rookie season for a good offensive team, or a good team in general in the NFL. And I think the Raiders have the potential to be pretty damn good heading into next season. Again, with the way we have this draft shaping out for the Raiders in particular, they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They got Geno Smith, who is more than serviceable, the best tight end in the league in Brock Bowers already, Jacoby Myers. Renfro might possibly come back, I've heard as well. The Patriots up once again at pick number 69. They have gone all offense to this point. I like that move. I would go offense again here. I would go Marcus Embo. He could go earlier as well, a right tackle here. You get Simmons, you get Embo. I know we have Moses. He's more of a bridge guy, though. Obviously up there in age. Maybe you play Embo at guard or something. I don't know. You want guys who can be around for the long-term future to protect Drake May. He's got all the potential in the world. You got to do everything you can to keep him upright. He spent way too much time face down in the grass last season. Things have to change. Draft every offensive lineman you could possibly draft. That's how I feel as a Patriots fan, at least. Maybe I'm letting my emotions get the best of me in this case. But that brings up the Jags here. I'm going to have them take Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo, not really a great blocker. Kind of more of a slot guy, which I feel like fills the role that Ingram played. Ingram's more of a slot receiver, I feel like. You got Strange, who's a pretty good tight end already. Get Arroyo, who can kind of play slot receiver. I wouldn't hate for them to take Restrepo either. A great slot receiver, could work really well with that Jags offense. You got Brian Thomas to draw all the attention from the secondary. The Saints are up once again. I'm going to have the Saints take Jalen Milroe in this case. Jalen Milroe, not great. Not great in terms of his ability to throw the football, his decision-making, a lot of the technical aspects of being a quarterback he's not that great at. But he is an absolutely tremendous athlete. This guy is like Derrick Henry at quarterback. If you can develop him into an average thrower, he is going to be a far above average quarterback. And I think with Kellen Moore coming over to the Saints, there could potentially be a system put in place for Milroe to really succeed. Obviously, he's a long-term project. He's not going to be a day one starter by any means. You already got Derek Carr. You got Rattler as a backup. Milroe, I think, would be a nice fit for the Saints, again, who traded back in this scenario, really stockpiling picks, stockpiling players, young players in particular, and building for the future. I think Milroe, again, perfect fit for the Saints here. That brings up the Bears once again here at pick number 72. I like Restrepo here. I love this pick for the Bears. You lose Keenan Allen, bring in another slot guy. Restrepo obviously didn't run the best 40 ever. He plays fast. He's going to go for cheap because teams are going to be scared of his 40 time. With Caleb Williams, with DJ Moore, with the Dunze, with that offensive line, with Genty in this case, that is a really good player to really round out your offense. We got the Jets here again, who had Membo and Williams. I could see them potentially taking a quarterback here, maybe Will Howard. it's really tough to guess when these other quarterbacks are going to go in the draft. To be honest, there's a couple other guys here like Schweizinger who might even go earlier as well. I don't think the Jets really need a linebacker. In this case, I'm going to have them select a wide receiver. I like Bond. I like Horton. I like Kyle Williams again. I'm going to have them take Amenor here early in the third round. That brings up the Panthers once again, who have Jack Besh and Samar Stewart. We're going to look back to defense here for the Carolina Panthers, and we're going to give them Carson Schweizinger. They need linebacker help. They need help at literally every position on defense. I've already said that. I don't feel like I can say that anymore, to be honest. That brings us to the Niners here. They need help in the trenches. They haven't picked in a while just because, again, they kind of gave up their second-round pick. Well, they didn't kind of. They gave up their second-round pick to go get Mason Graham. In this scenario, there's still some really good tackles on the board. Ozzy Trapilo here out of Boston College, I feel like can play both tackle positions. You know, Williams, he's getting up there in age as well. You need offensive line help. The trenches are really the Niners' biggest weakness, and I think Ozzy kind of fills a big need for them at this spot. And yes, a ghost was moving my mouse there. I messed up speaking, so I had to do some editing magic. I messed up speaking a lot, actually, and I can't pronounce anybody's name. It's kind of a problem, to be honest. But that brings up the Cowboys once again here, who have taken Tet McMillan and Caleb Johnson so far. They need pass rush as well. Kyle Kennard and Josiah Stewart here will go Stewart for the Cowboys. The Patriots are up once again. We've gone all offense at this point. 2 tackles, Harris, Henderson. I mean, would I be doing too much if I took Wyatt Millum here? I think I might. I'm going to go Makuba. He kind of reminds me of Devin McCourty, a great ball hawking safety. I want to say, yeah, it literally says shades of Devin McCourty. Yeah, I mean, he would just fit pretty well. You know, question marks surrounding Jabril Peppers. He had a little incident last year that I won't dive too much into. Duggar's more of a box guy anyways. He struggled. Put Makuba up top and let him hopefully intercept some footballs, man. That'd be nice. The defense for the Patriots is definitely trending up. I think we filled a lot of holes in the offseason. Makuba would be a really nice addition, a guy for the future as well. That brings up the Cardinals once again here. They've taken a corner and an interior defensive lineman so far. Let's look to wide receiver in this case. Horton, Williams, or... Oh, that one's tough. Horton, Bond, or Williams. Those would be my top 3 picks for the spot. I'm going to go with Kyle Williams in this case. They got Marvin Harrison. They got Michael Wilson. Dortch isn't bad either. But, you know, why not add another guy to that room with some serious potential in Kyle Williams, in my opinion. We got the Texans once again. They've taken Ursary and Igbuka. Let's go... This one's close. I don't think they need center help as bad as they need guard help. We'll take Wyatt Millum with the 79th overall pick. That brings up the Colts here at pick number 80. We're going to give them a linebacker here in Demetrius Knight. Bengals at pick number 81. They've already gotten a linebacker / edge rusher in Jalen Walker, a guard in Sayavina. Butcher that pronunciation once again. They could look back to defensive line here, whether it's interior or edge rusher. They could go safety with Kevin Winston Jr. here. That's the pick I'm going to make for him. Kevin Winston is a little bit taller than Makuba. He's 6'2", so he's got a little bit more of a physical presence. Could definitely be a box guy as well. If we take a look here at his stats, didn't really play a lot last season because of injury, but before that, they had him playing in the slot a little bit, in the box, playing deep, kind of a do-it-all safety. And at pick number 82, that brings up the Seahawks. They're going to take Jared Wilson, a team that definitely needs a center. Wilson could go earlier as well, one of the few really good centers in this draft. That brings up the Steelers once again. They've taken Hampton. Not a lot of picks in this draft. Do you take a tackle to help protect Aaron Rodgers? In this scenario, again, that's kind of our belief, is that Aaron Rodgers is going to the Steelers. Let's have them take Charles Grant here, protect Aaron Rodgers. And with Grant, Hampton, Pickens, with Freiermuth, with DK Metcalf, obviously, that Steelers offense might be okay. I don't know if I'm really sold on Aaron Rodgers. I think he kind of stat padded a little bit last season, certainly past his prime. I don't think anybody would argue that. But yeah, Steelers offense, I've definitely seen worse. I've seen far worse last season in particular with Russell Wilson. And that means the Bucs are up again at pick number 84. They could go Kyle Kennard here. It really depends on how much you think you're going to be rushing Jahad Campbell. I'm going to go ahead and pick Kennard here. I don't hate Ransom at safety either. We'll go with Kennard, though. Pretty good value at pick number 84. The Broncos are up here. Golden and Judkins so far. I'm going to have the Broncos select Vernon Broughton. I like Joshua Farmer as well. Vernon is incredibly solid, though. They could use a little bit of interior defensive help. They do have Zach Allen. That defense in general is just absolutely tremendous. Why not get more depth at the defensive line position in general, whether it's edge rusher, whether it's interior defensive line, Benito. Just an awesome defense. I can't wait to watch them play next year, even though I personally don't really like the Broncos that much, just because of Peyton Manning. You know, as a Patriots fan, I hate the Broncos, I hate the Colts, I hate the Giants. Those are like really the three teams that I don't like. You know, the Jets probably fit into that category as well. But the Chargers are up once again. They take in Loveland and Sawyer so far. I don't think they're going to take a tall receiver from TCU. They probably have PTSD from doing so. I'm going to have them take Torrey Horton in this case. I don't hate the idea of Tez Johnson. Again, didn't really run a fast 40. Played for Oregon, though. A connection there with Herbert as well, possibly. But I'm going to have them take Horton in this case. I think he's got really nice upside. Packers, pick number 87. Mike Green, Revel. Obviously, wide receivers in play here. You know, they're looking for a number one, though. They're looking for an alpha. I'm not sure they have that. Would they draft another receiver here in round 3 if they don't feel like he's going to be the absolute number one guy? They did have some injuries last year at the position, so a little bit more depth maybe wouldn't hurt. I'm going to have them take Isaiah Bond in this case. Again, didn't run the fastest 40. Probably thought he was going to run it a little bit faster than he did. But he plays fast. Kind of got overshadowed a little bit by Matthew Golden. He could definitely still be really good at the wide receiver position, which brings up the Jags once again. They could go receiver as well. Do you pair Brian Thomas, who's tall, with another 6'4" receiver in Sav Williams? Let's go ahead and make that pick there. Don't really love too much here at the wide receiver position. I like Thornton. Thornton could be a sneaky pick there as well. 6'5", tested incredibly well. I could see him going there potentially. We're kind of splitting hairs at this point. I feel like you're potentially even throwing darts at a board. At least I am. You know, I don't get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to evaluate these players and watch the All-22 for hours every day. So, you know, experts are going to have, more nuanced opinions about some of these guys than I will. But that brings up the Texans once again. We got Ibuka, Ursary, and Millam. So, you know, the question with the Texans is, do we go interior defensive line here? I'm going to go with Joshua Farmer. That's probably really the only hole they have on defense at the moment. Again, no team can ever have too much defensive line help. But that defense, I got a hot take. I think that might be the best defense in the league next year. They pick up Gardner Johnson as well from the Eagles. Man, they're going to be good. Really good pass rush on top of it. They were lights out against the Chiefs. Just couldn't really block for CJ Stroud. But I think, again, if they're able to sort out the offensive line at least a little bit, make it a little bit better from last season, that bar is super low. They can make a run for a Super Bowl, no doubt about it. Rams up once again here at pick number 90. Harold Fannin here could certainly be an option. Higbee is the current tight end. Yeah, get Matthew Stafford a little bit of help here. You know, it seemed like he thought about leaving. He comes back. Again, you want guys who can make instant impacts on the team, whether it's offense or defense. You're a Super Bowl contender as well. Fannin would be a nice target for Stafford alongside Tutu Atwell, Devontae Adams, obviously, and then Puka, who is one of the best young wide receivers in the league. The Ravens. I'm going to have the Ravens select Ransom here. They run a three safety system. They got Hamilton. Hamilton's just best suited for the box, in my opinion. He can play slot corner as well. And then Ransom, I think, slots in there nicely. He could be solid. A couple of different safeties might be available at different points throughout the draft for the Ravens. I think they should absolutely go get one here. But he played mostly deep safety for the Buckeyes. 490 snaps here. I probably have the screen cut off so you guys can't see all my open tabs. But 490 snaps at deep safety, 226 in the box. But Ransom could certainly be a nice player for the Ravens. I feel like that name just fits well with the Ravens. I mean, that might be kind of a silly thing to say, but I don't know. When I think of the Ravens, man, I think of intimidating, physical defensive football. Growing up watching Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Ransom. I don't know. Not really that insightful analysis, but yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a good fit for them there. Seahawks once again. Banks to play guard, maybe tackle long term. Noel Scorton, Jared Wilson here. Let's have the Seahawks take Will Howard. Maybe Sam Darnold doesn't work out. You got a young guy who, at worst, is a good backup. Having a good backup is still very important in the NFL. Guys get hurt all the time. So Will Howard certainly could be an option there for the Seahawks late in the third round. Saints up once again. I like their decision to trade back in this scenario. Obviously, they didn't have a first round pick after trading back. They could trade back up potentially, but I like this draft so far for them. Burden here at wide receiver to pair with Olave, and then Shaheed is a deep threat again. Morrison at corner. You got Ivy off the edge. Milroe to develop. You could take Cam Skattebo here. I would not hate that whatsoever. I'm going to go with Devin Neal, though. Obviously, Kamara is kind of getting up there in age. It hurts to see, man, because just one of the best players of our generation. Love watching that guy play. Tremendous balance, and you might get shades of that with Skattebo. Kamara a little bit smaller, but powerful, great balance. Skattebo, kind of shades of Kamara in a weird way. Plus, he can catch, he can throw too. I wouldn't hate Skattebo for the Saints, but I think the Saints might be looking for an every down type of guy, and I'm not sure Skattebo has the breakaway speed to be that. I think he's more of a utility type of guy, in my opinion. As a huge ASU fan, I love Skattebo. I'm going to be a fan of whatever team he goes to, as long as it's not the Chiefs. Just please not the Chiefs. But Devin Neal, I think, is great. That brings up the Browns once again. They haven't picked in a while here, but they do have Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Do you want to protect Shedeur Sanders? I think the answer is yes. This offensive line is not bad. You could definitely use a little help here at tackle. It's between Belton and Cameron Williams. Just whoever you like better. We'll go Cameron Williams in this case. I think a little bit more upside, a little bit more raw. And then, yeah, I'm going to give Skattebo to the Chiefs here, unfortunately. I know I just said that I would hate to see that, but it makes a lot of sense, man. Again, we talked about it earlier. A team that is building in the trenches, that is scrappy on offense, and I think Skattebo fits them really well. With Andy Reid calling plays, they do a lot of funky stuff, and Skattebo would fit perfectly. I hate how much he fits perfectly there. It kind of pisses me off, but I think he would play really, really well for that team, man. I think it's just an awesome fit. Eagles up once again. So far, we've had them take an edge rusher and a tight end. They could look interior defensive line here. That's really the only hole. I mean, maybe safety. I'm going to have them take Shamar Turner in this case. And then the Vikings are up. Not a lot of picks again. Malachi Stark so far, but they don't really need a ton of help. This is a pretty damn good football team. Cornerback, I'm not really sure. I'm not really in love with anybody, past this point. I think Quincy Riley is definitely pretty solid. I'd probably take him over these other guys at this point. They got a couple short-term solutions for the interior defensive line as well. You might want to look to somebody, younger, obviously, in the draft as more of a long-term solution. So in this case, I'm going to go with Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. That brings up the Dolphins here. I'm going to have them take an interior defensive lineman as well, and CJ West out of Indiana. We got the Giants, who have taken Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, and TJ Sanders. We'll go tackle here as well. You know, I think they need help at right tackle, and Belton is a left tackle, a guy with potential here. You know, I'm not really sure what options there are at tackle past this point. Chase Lunt is certainly not a bad option out of Connecticut as well, just because he's a pure right tackle. He played that position in college. We'll go with Chase Lunt in this case. We have the Niners up once again. Wouldn't hate to see them go guard here or tackle once again. I'm going to have the Niners take Jordan Burch, though, out of Oregon again. They need help. Defensive line, offensive line. They don't really have anybody opposite of Bosa at the moment to get after the quarterback, and Jordan Burch could be a rotational guy, maybe develops into a full-time starter. We'll see. That brings up the Rams at pick 101. Again, we're looking for guys who can make instant impacts. I don't hate Chris Paul here. The Rams struggled against the run. Saquon Barkley absolutely gashed them. So I'm going to go ahead and have the Rams take Chris Paul Jr. here. And then with the last pick in our 3-round mock draft, I'm going to have the Lions select Tez Johnson. I just feel like they're going to make him work in that offense. He gets to catch passes alongside, you know, Jameson Williams, and then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta at tight end as well. You got the two great running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I feel like Tez Johnson maybe wouldn't be great on a lot of teams, but I feel like on the Lions, we could really see his full potential. But that rounds out my 3-round mock draft. Let me know if you guys like it. Obviously, the big surprising move here was the Browns trading up back into the top 10 to get Shedeur Sanders to pair with Travis Hunter. I think it is realistic. Is it going to happen? Is it likely? No, I wouldn't even say that. You know, Will Campbell may be a little surprising. You know, the Niners trading up, Walter Nolan here. There's obviously going to be a lot more trades in the second and third rounds as well that I can't really predict. It really depends on how much teams like an individual player, but I like the way this shaped out. I feel like every team got a lot better, especially my Patriots. Would love to see the draft go that way. Just stack the offense, get a safety on top of it. And, yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that. That took a few hours to record, though. But I'm going to work on my pronunciation, and I'll get better for next time. I promise you guys.